Hi, I'm Will Lockamy.
And I'm Reed Lockamy.
Welcome to the Iron Bowl Hour.
Or as we like to call it, the show that is pulling for Houston to win it all.
Houston?
It's one of the undefeated teams, Houston.
An undefeated football team? They have a football team?
Haven't lost a game.
On tonight's show.
Which is shorter, Nick Saban's temper or Terry Bowden?
Is this with cleats on or without cleats?
With cleats.
No, I think it's being popped right in the hiney by a trooper towel.
Well, when you say hiney, that does sound frightening.
From atop Red Mountain at Vulcan Park and Museum, it's the Iron Bowl Hour.
Looks like somebody forgot to dress accordingly for this week's Chili Agree to Disagree.
Who? The Alabama kicking game continued to suffer last week against Mississippi State. If Alabama gets into fourth down situations on the edge of field goal range, should they abandon the kicking game? Yes, absolutely they should. This is turning into a major embarrassment for the university.
It's embarrassing, yeah.
People are making fun of them routinely through
time.
all forms of social media. There are pictures making the rounds of the Three Stooges holding kicking tryouts. This is a problem.
I've doctored several of those photos
That's
myself.
right.
Yeah.
So look, yes, it's time to abandon the kicking game. Free up. I would say free up a couple of scholarships, although I assume those kids are not on scholarship.
No way, they're kickers.
They should just kick them off the team, though.
Well, they should be kicking something. Yeah, look, here's the thing, though. In all honesty, you can't abandon the kicking game because these guys are highly recruited kickers. They can kick field goals, they just haven't done it lately. You have to keep them in there. You have to keep them kicking. They're going to make one eventually. Their confidence will be right back. Okay. But yeah, I mean, definitely we can make fun of them all we want.
Well,
They're
from
kickers.
you saying that you can't just abandon the kicking game,
Right.
Clearly you've never seen a middle school football game. You can just abandon a kicking game completely. Listen, don't forget, what's a very successful school? It's a high school in Arkansas. I think it's Pulaski, who is just decided we're not ever going to punt. It's not to our advantage to do so. And I think Alabama, oddly enough, is in a similar situation with their place kicking. You've got Trent Richardson on that team. Right, if you're anywhere near, maybe we can't make this, even if it's like 4th down and 14, just give it to Trent Richardson. He'll pick up 18, 20, 30 yards, something like that. You're fine. No reason to be missing a field goal at this point.
It's an important part of the game, and these guys they'll get it together eventually. I'm telling you, it hadn't cost them a game yet. After a drumming last week by Georgia, Auburn goes into the Samford game at 6-4. It will most likely be 7-4 when they face Alabama. Is Auburn's season considered a success if they beat Alabama? I think you consider it a huge success, Reed. Before the season, the SEC media days.
I do not. Are you saying I do?
No, you should, because I'm telling you, before the season, everyone predicted Auburn to maybe win 6 games. I think that was the average that everybody said at SEC media days. 6 games.
Are you talking about Shane from Centerpoint predicted that?
He was at SEC media days,
right.
Yeah. No, but look, Auburn now having the toughest schedule in the country, losing 19 starters, Reed, 24 seniors. That's a lot of leadership, including losing a Heisman Trophy winner. I think winning 7 games with the toughest schedule in the country should be considered a success.
Look,
forget the Iron Bowl. That's just if they win that, that's just a bonus. Give them the national championship again.
Having a tough schedule only works to your advantage if you beat one of the teams that makes it a tough schedule. Auburn has come in, listen, they won the national championship last year.
Right.
They've come into this season. They're going to drop 5 games, right, and then maybe lose the Weed Eater Bowl or whatever it is they'll be playing in. So that's going to be 6 losses, right, at the end. This is not a successful season for them unless they're willing to admit that they're just a pathetic football program, because that's only a pathetic football program would come in and say, look at us, we only lost 5 games this year, and then pat us on the back. That's ridiculous, right?
Well, Reed, they won the national championship last year. How could you call them a pathetic program? And the losses so far that they have this season have come on the road to the top, to like all 4 of the teams have been top 10
What
teams.
I'm saying, I'm not saying they're a pathetic football program. I'm saying if people want to say, look, a successful season, only 5 losses, that's like Missouri. Only Missouri would say something. No offense to Tom.
Don't even bring up Missouri.
I know, yeah, I feel bad about that. But the point is this, listen, this is not a good season for Auburn. It doesn't matter that people had low expectations for them. It doesn't matter that some of Alabama's national championships have been claimed for seasons that are similar to the one that Auburn's having this year. That doesn't make it a good season for Auburn. You have to beat at least one good team. South
Carolina?
Maybe a good team. So maybe if you beat Alabama, you could sort of say, hey, that's a successful outing. That's a successful week. That does not make a successful season, though.
Pathetic program?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying if they try to say it's a successful season based on, 7 wins.
Pathetic.
That would be pathetic.
Pathetic.
In the college football world, it is the coach's job to hype the players up in the locker room, but they also play a role in the task of hyping up the crowd. Who's a better hype man, Scott Cochran or Trooper Taylor? It's Scott Cochran. Well, this is easy.
No, I think it's actually Trooper Taylor. Right?
No, because remember the question is who's a better hype man?
Right.
And the way you hype people up is you scream and yell, and you get on a jumbotron and you yell at them then, and then every time ESPN makes a documentary about your program, all people remember is that guy that was screaming and yelling all the time, and that's
right.
and people are hyped up. It's hype show.
Reed, I'm afraid you're not watching enough rap videos.
Well, no, that may be true. I only watch 3 a day.
No, okay. Well, here's the thing. Every good rapper has a good hype man, and every good hype man has a towel, Reed. You know what these towels are used for?
No.
Well, 2 things. Wiping the sweat off of a rapper's face and waving the towel around to get the crowd hyped.
That's not true. Is that true?
I promise. They wave the towel around to get the crowd hyped up for the rapper.
Listen, it's not true that every good hype man has a towel, because Scott Cochran has no towel. Listen, I think also you might be misunderstanding what Scott Cochran's role is, right? It's not even really necessarily about hyping up Alabama fans, right? It's more so, you've seen, I don't know, you've been to a game at Bryant-Denny, they show the videos in the corners of the stadium and all that.
It's annoying, yeah.
Yeah, it's not about hyping up the fans even, it's about scaring the crap out of the other team, right?
Okay.
Have you ever seen that guy? It's scary the way he yells, he's out of control, he's a ginger, right? It's a frightening situation.
Reed, what's more frightening than being popped by a Trooper towel?
Scott Cochran.
No, I think it's being popped right in the hiney by a Trooper towel.
Well, when you say hiney, that does sound frightening.
Yeah, for sure. Reed, let's go up to the top of Vulcan with Antonio London.
Stay tuned for more of the Iron Bowl Hour.
Reed, it's time for rapid fire questions with former Alabama linebacker Antonio London.
All right, here we go.
All right.
How often does someone confuse you with Antonio Langham?
I at least say twice a day when I'm in the state of Alabama.
That's pretty impressive. All right, what's the difference between you and Antonio Langham?
He's a Langham and I'm a London.
Okay, that's good.
Hey, how hard can it be to kick a field goal?
Seems to be pretty tough here lately. Isn't it?
Sometimes. Should children be allowed to watch this year's Iron Bowl?
Absolutely yes.
Wow, okay.
Should there be a rematch between Bama and LSU, or should the title just go ahead and be awarded to Alabama without a game?
I think the game needs to be played, then awarded to us, regardless of the outcome.
If Auburn wins the Iron Bowl this year, what will Harvey Updike do?
Are there any trees left?
Not exactly.
Not for sure.
Okay.
Better pregame tradition, the flight of the Eagle at Auburn or the lowering of the expectations at Ole Miss?
Well, I like the flight of the Eagle because I believe you hit a window not too long ago, so that was exciting.
Antonio.
It's awkward. Which is shorter, Nick Saban's temper or Terry Bowden?
Is this with cleats on or without cleats?
With cleats.
Temper.
Okay. Is it just me or are cheerleaders a little bossy?
Have no idea.
Always telling us to say stuff.
Push them back, push them back.
Way back.
Tell me what to do.
What's the difference between Auburn and Alabama?
One's a winner.
He didn't say which one.
No, he
though.
didn't. All right, let's head to the elevator.
Good
All
answers, yeah.
All right, we have somehow convinced former Alabama linebacker Antonio London to stick with us, so congratulations.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Good
for sure.
job. Yeah.
Now, Antonio, you told me during the break that you and some of the former defensive players from the 1992 team still get together and work out together and stuff like that. Do you guys ever get together and catch passes from Stan White still?
No, not at all.
No?
We did enough of that when we were playing.
Gotcha.
There you go.
Excellent.
All right, so a lot of people have talked this season about comparing Alabama's defense this year to the one that you played on, and these are all the best defenses that have ever been. And my question is not so much about what's the difference between them, but what are the similarities? What makes a defense click the way yours did and the way Alabama has this year?
I think it's a matter of having a common mission, common plan, common goal. And when you have all three of those things, that makes a great defense. So all 11 players, including your backups that are out there, not out on the field at one time, obviously, they all understand what the mission is. And they'll do whatever it takes as far as complete buy-in to get it done.
Do you really feel like this defense this year is as good as people have said it is?
Yes, I do.
But not as good as 1992?
Honestly, probably not.
No, of course not, right?
Yeah, right.
They still have to win a national championship.
Well, you know, I don't think that you compare it to the fact of winning a national championship, but I think a little bit, there's some things that are different. You know, I look at the year we won the national championship the year before. A lot of those wins were wins where we were ahead a lot of points. It's easy to play defense when you can pin your ears back and go.
Right.
But the way we played defense back in '92, I mean, you know, we was close with La Tech that year. We were close with probably Vanderbilt that year. So every game that we played, we're in a dogfight. So you never really got a chance to pin your ears back and just go. I would say this year, maybe in the first 5 games, we've probably scored more points than we scored the whole year, with the exception of the Miami game, the year we won the national championship. So it's just totally different, and it's hard to compare the defenses.
Speaking of that Miami game, how sweet was it to beat those showboats?
Oh, man, that was just unbelievable. I mean, that was an unbelievable thrill. I mean, having to listen to those guys speak the whole week. But remember that in '89, we played those guys back then and lost to them. That was the year we were undefeated and went down to this place and played and lost that game, and went on to play Miami that year for the national championship and lost. So, you know, it was 3 years waiting to get back at those guys for me anyway.
And it was awesome.
It was absolutely awesome.
I think when Antonio says that place, he's referring to Auburn. Is that, did
oh,
you catch
is that place?
That was that.
Well, you know.
I'm surprised you called it a place.
And I've not been to that place since then.
Really?
Really?
Really? They say it's a lovely village.
Beautiful, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Now, Antonio, it's been a while since you were playing. As a matter of fact, you played so long ago that was back when the Detroit Lions were good. So I'm curious to know how you think the game, especially of college football, has changed. A lot of people say, oh, defenses win championships. Of course, last year you had Auburn and Oregon, 2 teams that were not known for their defenses in the championship game. Do you think that the game has changed on the whole?
I don't. I think when it all boils down to it, it's still about defense. You know, if you look at Auburn last year, they started out really slow, but their defense got really good as they went through the course of the year. And Oregon, obviously, defense got better as well. But I think that defense, no matter what, even in the pros, I mean, how good Peyton Manning is, until they got a good defense, they never won a Super Bowl. So I still believe that defense wins championships.
How good Peyton Manning was.
Well, he hasn't retired yet. So
not yet. I hope he comes back. I'd hate to see him go on an injury like that.
I'm not really big of a Tennessee fan, so I really can't say. I'm anticipating him coming back.
Really? No, you're from Tennessee, right?
I'm from Tennessee.
You didn't grow up a big Tennessee fan?
I didn't. I grew up a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. I really wasn't growing up a fan of college at all. I just happened to get a letter one year when I was a sophomore and said, hey, this is not a bad idea.
You didn't realize the colleges even existed.
Not at all. You know,
we're going to go straight to the pros.
Didn't have the cable. I don't think the channels we had, they had the college games on anyway.
Right.
So.
Well, being from Tennessee, though, did your fellow Alabama players rag you a little bit? Because that's a pretty big rivalry there.
You know, it's funny. When I first got here, the first practice I was at, I remember Coach Dubose telling me there's nothing that comes good out of Tennessee. We need to give them an apple and a bus ticket and send them back to Tennessee. And I said, wow, they was loving me when they was recruiting me, but now it's real. You know, we're in season.
Changes a little bit then once you're on the team.
Right, absolutely.
Now, there's been a lot of talk about the end of this season and what the end game is. Who's going to play for the national championship? What's your take on the BCS in general? Are you pleased with that system? Do you think college football needs a playoff? What's your take on this?
Well, it's difficult. Being a former player, you know, you like to say, let's settle it on the field. Obviously, if you had a playoff system this year, there's probably 6 teams that you can throw in a hat and say, well, let's play for a championship. But at the same time, the physicality of football, it's hard to want to put an extra 3 or 4 games on these guys. So, you know, it's a tough deal. Right now, you know, so far, the BCS has kind of gotten lucky, and they've been able to pick the top 2 teams. So, you know, until it doesn't work, we'll just continue living with it.
But have they? I mean, we can go back to several years. 2004, there was a team that played at that place. You know, they got left out. So I feel like it hasn't been accurate every year. Well,
it has been accurate every year, and you're right. There's some things that play into it. Even in that, you know, you have to be careful of who you schedule, what you schedule, when you schedule. Then it becomes a situation where, you know, okay, you got to beat this team by a certain amount of points, you know, a style point. So, you know, a lot of things take into it, but I don't know if I really want to add 3 or 4 more games, especially when you have teams like, and I'm a little bit biased to the SEC, but when you play in the SEC, and you got to ask the SEC team to play 3 more games, I think that's pretty tough.
I think this year could be setting up for people really wishing there was at least a +1. I mean, you could either have a few undefeated teams, I guess, or you could have several one-loss teams that all deserve a chance at the championship. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to find out if you think Alabama should deserve that chance to play for the championship. We're back after this with more with Antonio London.
Stay tuned for more of the Iron Bowl Hour.
We're back with Antonio London, former linebacker from Alabama. So before the break, we were talking about what could possibly happen at the end of the season. Do you think Alabama is going to deserve a chance to play for the national championship?
Deserve is a unique word.
It is.
Do I think we deserve to play? I think that we play 12, 13 games and you have an opportunity. But unfortunately for us, since we did not win that game, we don't control. We're not in the driver's seat. All we can do is do what we do and then hope for the best. So with that being said, we really won't know whether we deserve to be there until everything pans out at the end of the year.
All right, so let's talk about a team that does not deserve a chance, which is Auburn this year. It's hard. I think a lot of people had low expectations of Auburn coming into the season, and yet still people have felt very frustrated about the way they performed in certain games, especially recently against Georgia. The team didn't look very good at all. What sort of effect does it have when you have young guys? How is inexperience that important that it makes that huge of a difference?
Well, you know, I look at it a lot of different ways. I don't follow that school very, very closely.
Which one?
What school is
that
this?
other school. Yeah. But and not because I'm not a fan, because I am. I'm a fan of every team in the SEC except for when they're playing us. But I believe that there's some games that you guys pretty much won handily last year. So I would say, hey, it shouldn't be a situation where there's a lot of inexperience. Your guys got to play last year. You got an opportunity to get on the field. And the key is to recruit people to keep filling in the gaps. And, you know, the great thing with me, what Saban has done at the university is that there's just no excuses. Year in, year out, they're good and they're competing. And I think Auburn will get there eventually. But when you start looking at Auburn last year, you know, we talked a little bit about Peyton Manning a little bit earlier. My goodness, what difference does a quarterback make? I mean, you know, if you take Cam Newton off of that team last year, no offense, you may lose 3 or 4 games last year as well. So, you know, you have to look at what you had, what he was able to bring to the table, what he did for you guys, and, you know, you got to take it from there.
And now, to be clear, you say you guys as if we were Auburn fans. Of course, you know, we're big Tulane fans, so that doesn't really apply to us at all. But
I am too.
Yeah, well, how could you not be? Yeah. But I understand what you're saying about Auburn.
Yeah, for sure. Now, being from Tennessee, did the rivalry, did you have any idea before you got down here what Alabama and Auburn football was all about?
No idea. Absolutely no idea. The first year that I was here, it was Rocky Top all week long, and, you know, you heard the song playing at the cafeteria. You know, back then we had the athletic dorm, and, you know, you go to bed here and you wake up here and it's Rocky Top, Rocky Top. And that was a big game for me. You know, that's my family going back home, so on and so forth. But when we played over there, it was, you know, to this day, that's the loudest stadium I have ever been in. I mean, the floor was actually moving. I mean, it was just that loud. But the Alabama-Auburn is everything here. I mean, there's no professional team, so there's nothing else here in the state of Alabama besides Alabama and Auburn. I think that at the time of conception, actually, you have to make a decision. Are you going to be an Auburn fan, or are you going to be an
exciting time.
Alabama fan?
Yeah.
Exciting. Never already there.
For sure. So, listen, do you think it's out of control, though? Do you think people take it too seriously?
No. Well, you know, I think that when violence is involved, things of that nature, then it's too serious. Maybe. But everything else, I mean, you got to love. You got to love the rivalry. I mean, you really and truly have to love it. And it goes everywhere. I was down in Destin this past weekend, and I mean, you know, you see people with Auburn on, and I'm like, Roll Tide, you know, and it's just a great rivalry. And no matter what the score is, no matter how good Auburn is, how good Alabama is, at the end of the day, when they play that game, you really never know who's going to win. I mean, obviously, you know, what happened to Auburn against Georgia and how Alabama's playing right now. People say, you know, yeah, Alabama's going to beat them, so on and so forth. But look at last year. You know, Auburn #1, I'm not for sure what we was ranked. We jumped out 24-0. Couldn't hold on. But, I mean, it's just, I think the year we won the championship, Auburn jumped out on us that year, and we had to fight our way back. So, you know, you just never know with that game. It's just an all-out rival. And unlike for me, I'm from Tennessee, these kids, most of them grew up together throughout high school, so they know each other pretty well.
Now, look, with all this hullabaloo in the last couple of years about players being paid and receiving extra benefits here and there, of course, it's been going on for a long time. In your recruitment, when Coach Curry was recruiting you, you don't have to admit to anything yourself, but I mean, did you witness any of that from any school, anywhere?
Never.
We get that from everybody, and it just makes me think like there's some kind of like secret, you know, thing everybody has to sign. I mean, every player says that they never witnessed anything.
I'm pretty upset that I missed out on all of it. I'm trying to figure out what I did wrong.
That's also
coming out, but you know, shucks, man, I hate I missed out on all that good stuff.
So what do you think? But do you think it goes on to some extent?
Well, obviously it does. I mean, we see it out there, so it's obviously going on, yes.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about this. Do you think, you know, a lot of people have talked about there needs to be a change and you know, players should be compensated. They're making so much money for the universities, and you see coaches making these what a lot of people consider to be outrageous salaries. Do you think that there is some inequality and unfairness there?
I think they should be paid something. And I don't know if you want to call it pay per
Right.
se, but I think that, you know, you take my situation. I came out of high school at about 185, 190 pounds. By the time I left the university, I was probably 240. So there's some clothes, I should say, that has to change. Where does that come from? We can't work while we're playing.
Right.
They don't allow us to do those things. So I think there should be a little bit of something given to the kids. You know, you're washing clothes. I mean, God forbid you have a girlfriend, you might want to take her to the movie or back then we had our little hall. I don't think we could take them in the Bryant Hall and you know, feed them there. So I think they deserve to be given something, but I just don't know what you really are going to call it.
Girlfriends want to be fed. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're not going to put up with not being fed.
There you go.
They got to eat, for sure. Well, Antonio, thanks so much for being with us. This
Thank
has been
you.
fun. Yeah,
Thank you.
sure.
I've enjoyed it.
Excellent. Up next, it's time for the Innisfree Trivia Minute. Reed, before we head out to Innisfree, we need to congratulate Jonathan Hamilton. He correctly knew that the number of Iron Bowls that were decided by 1 point was 6.
Interesting, yeah. And viewers, don't forget, you can be a winner just like Jonathan Hamilton by correctly guessing the answer to this week's trivia question and submitting your answer either to the email address or phone number at the bottom of the screen.
Reed, let's head to the free.
Okay.
Hey, I'm Nick.
And I'm Carrie.
This is your Innisfree Trivia Minute.
Your question for the week is, how many Iron Bowls have gone into overtime?
A, 0, B, 1, C, 2.
Good luck.
That is all the time we have for tonight. We'd like to thank Antonio Langham for being
It
here.
was actually Antonio London, Will.
It was an Antonio.
It was.
I'm sure about that.
Antonio. It was a good show. And viewers, don't forget, up next, Knight Rider.
For the Iron Bowl Hour, I'm Will Lockamy.
And I'm Reed Lockamy.
Hey, War Tide, Reed.
And Roll Eagle, Will.
There you go.
Vulcan Park and Museum. Introduce your family and friends to Birmingham's icon this holiday season. Vulcan Park and Museum will open at 1 p.m. Thanksgiving Day. For hours and admission, log on to www.visitvulcan.com.
Reed, every good rapper has a good hype man. All right, here we go. Reed, every good rapper has a good hype man. I'm sorry, guy. I'm sorry. You know what that towel's used for?
No.
2 things, Reed. Wiping sweat. Damn it. Stop laughing.
All right, it's so funny, though.
I know. Man, and every good hype man has a good hype towel.
Wow. This is the funniest topic we've ever tackled.
Stop. Okay.
Towel.
Don't do anything funny.
All right.